Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined as always by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
We're doing well, man. Wolves in 5.
Absolutely. And we have a very special guest from zonecoverage.com, Charlie Walton. Charlie, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is fun.
Yeah, no, it was great the first time you were here. We love having you. I know you've been super busy with zone coverage. You can check them out. Just so we get going here, what's your Twitter and where can people find you?
Charlie Walton, MN, Instagram and Twitter or X, primary two, really the only two places that I cover. And then obviously zonecoverage.com.
Awesome. Yeah, he does great stuff over there, and you should check him out. I'll link you in the description as well, so people can go and find your stuff. Great stuff going on. But we're here to talk Timberwolves, who draw even with the Golden State Warriors, a blowout win. The Warriors got within 7 in the third quarter, but then really stepped on their throats after that. So let's start with this, Charlie. Your overall takeaways from Game 1, and then we'll get into some of the specifics.
Yeah, it was a must win, obviously. I mean, you can't go down 0-2 to the Curryless Warriors, but
right.
I just thought right away from the jump, the intensity, the execution was just miles better than it was in Game 1. And like, obviously 0 for 15 from 3 in the first half was an anomaly, but like to come out to bury 2 threes right away, to get Quentin Post out of there, right? He played 3 minutes within, and then he was out for the rest of the game. It was the perfect start. It was a start they needed. And it kind of the trends that were showing up right away kind of prevailed through the entire game, right? The Warriors just didn't really have a direction on offense without Steph, which I know we'll get more into about, how Jimmy didn't really step into that alpha role. And the Wolves were just the better team. They weathered that third quarter run, and hopefully it's the trend that remains, for as long as Steph's out. It sounds like, Game 6 would be the earliest. And it was just what they needed, especially, how bad they shot it in Game 1, just to prove, and I wrote about that, to kind of prove that like this gap between the Timberwolves and the Warriors exists when Steph isn't out there, because they didn't prove that in Game 1.
Right. And I think that the Warriors kind of came out shell-shocked without their leader, which, I mean, really, you take any team in the playoffs, if you don't have that guy, you're probably going to come out shell-shocked as well. But, Chris, your overall observations from Game 2.
I mean, we're just the better team by so much. Like, it really shouldn't be that big of a surprise. What I like is I like to see Dante, hit a couple shots. And I like to see Nikhil hit some shots. Like, I'm looking at this series now more like I want to see if our other guys can start getting in a rhythm, because we got to kind of, I don't want to look past Golden State, but if we want to be serious, we can't be stopped by what this Golden State team is right now. So I'm just looking for my guys that are kind of complimentary guys to get in a rhythm, because they've been pretty terrible so far in the playoffs. So
right,
I'm just hoping in these next couple of games they get rolling.
Right. I mean, you just look at the 3-pointers, the last 2 games, which is amazing. One of them they won. They hit 12 threes on 15% shooting, and they hit 16 threes last night on 43% shooting. So, I mean, that's your big difference right there. But I wanted to kind of start with a player that Minnesota fans love to hate, Jimmy Butler. And Charlie, it seems like if Jimmy Butler isn't wide open, it seems like he's almost afraid to shoot, or maybe not afraid, but reluctant to shoot. It's kind of a weird development of what I've seen, at least in these first 2 games.
Yeah, they definitely need him to be more aggressive moving forward. I expect him to be, as the series shifts back to San Francisco. But you're right, though, Gabe. He had 17 points, I believe, in Game 1 or in Game 2, excuse me. And like you said, most of them his buckets were on those open threes, and that, like, Chris Finch of the Wolves will live with that. Like, obviously that's if Jimmy Butler, they can keep him out of the mid range, away from the free throw line, away from the paint, that's winning for them. But that's where he needs to be, I think, to be like that Batman, right? Like Draymond Green said he was the Batman after Game 1, and it's like, well, to be that Batman, he has to get inside the 3-point line and to Minnesota's credit, they've got a ton of really good defense, right? So it's
Right.
it's the way they load up and the way they rotate when they're playing well. It's tough, but the bottom line is if Golden State, their primary goal right now should be to get this series to 6 games so that Steph can come back.
Right.
And it's like if they're going to do that and they're going to win one of the next 2 or whatever it's going to be, to make it to go to game 7 or game 6 or game 6 or game 7, you got to have Jimmy be more of a leader. Maybe he's not going to be that player that led the Miami Heat to the finals, but just bottom line is he has to be more aggressive.
Yeah, and really all the pressure is on Minnesota, in my opinion, just because now their best player's out. We thought we were going to lose our best player last night, but Anthony Edwards just always rises from the ashes somehow. It's really weird. It seems like every time he goes down, you can just go, oh, okay, he'll be back after halftime.
Yeah.
It's crazy his ability to get back up from whatever happens. And a lot of these injuries have been similar. It's been in the legs, ankles, in the lower part of his body. But I mean, it's amazing how he's been an Iron Man so far in his career.
And it didn't look good either when he went down.
No.
Like Finch even said post game, he didn't expect to have him in the second half. And yeah, it was, putting barely any weight on that leg, and he grimaced as he got up. It just, you never like to see that, regardless of how often it's just he can come back from them. It definitely wasn't what the Wolves needed, regardless. I mean, because he didn't play very well in the first half, but still.
Right, absolutely. So more on Butler. It's just how good of defense the Wolves are playing on him, particularly Jaden McDaniels. And Chris, I know you've been. You didn't think that you should throw Jaden McDaniels on Butler and maybe him play more of a roaming kind of style, but what have you seen so far, Chris, out of the defense on Jimmy Butler and just his reluctance to shoot and how well we're shutting down their Batman? And the other thing is, if Jimmy Butler is going to be Batman, they're going to need Buddy Hield to be Robin, and I don't know if he has that ability. I mean, I think he has the ability. I don't know if he has the skill at this point.
I don't know if you can.
Career.
Yeah, Jimmy's just not that good. Like, we're talking about his 3-point shooting. He shoots 2 a game this year. In the last couple of years, he's shot under 2 a game. So like, he's not even looking to shoot. This isn't anything new for Jimmy. Like, he looks to get to the line by drawing some sort of free throw, by getting some guy in some sort of situation that he can draw, the attention of the referee to lean into or whatever. Like, that's his game. So if he can't get you to foul him or he doesn't have an easy wide open layup, he's going to look to pass. So I don't mind Jaden on him. You asked about that. I would rather have Jaden on Jimmy than Jaden chase Buddy Hield. I think that, I'd like to have Jaden around the paint a lot more. That's where he can, get deflections, can block shots. And I think that's where his value on defense is, the most explosive for the Timberwolves is when he's kind of got to get his hands on things, opposed to just when he's shadowing a shooter.
We'll get you back to the podcast in just a second, but I want to talk about a team up that we did with an awesome local company. It's called 612 Tees. They make cool looking Wolves shirts, the coolest you're going to find on the internet. I mean, just look at some of these. You got this Anthony Edwards one, this Nas Reed Jaws one, Wolf of First Avenue. They also got you covered with the Wild, this 1-800-NAS Reed shirt. This is the one that I ordered, the Dante DiVincenzo one. I think that looks awesome. You got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who had an awesome game last night doing the force over here. And you got Justin Jefferson for you Vikings fan. You got Clark County. Wish he would get more minutes, but hey, at least he's rocking an awesome shirt. So check it out, 612 Tees. The link is in the description, and use promo code RUN30. That's RUN30 at checkout for 30% off your first purchase. We are super excited to be working with 612 Tees. Cole's his name. He's an awesome guy. Great to be able to partner with a great local company. So check him out, 612 Tees. I have his Twitter and his Etsy linked in the description. Use promo code RUN30 at checkout for 30% off your first purchase. Let's get back to the podcast. But it wasn't just Jane McDaniels last night. Also, Mike Conley was making it difficult for Buddy Hield. And Charlie, we talk a lot about Mike Conley and really his worth, particularly in the starting lineup and how much he's going to play. Like, for example, if he's just, Chris talks about this sometimes, but if he's just standing out in the corner while Ant is trying to penetrate or whatever, what value does he really bring? But I think he really showed last night what he can still do and contribute defensively and even offensively a little bit.
Yeah. It's just, I think that's a big reason why Chris Finch has leaned on him so hard. He's just a veteran, a veteran presence. His IQ on both sides of the ball, like you mentioned, Wolves have really needed it all year. And to have a guy like that in the postseason, who's as old as he is, who is still playing as hard as he is. I saw a clip go viral of him. I think it was he defended Buddy Hield, forced a shot clock violation, and he was going nuts with the Wolves bench. And I posted it on Twitter. And it's cool to see him so engaged, because this means a ton to him to be competing at this stage of his career, to have a chance to go back to the Western Conference Finals, to have another chance to, who knows, maybe he meets Cat in the finals, right? And because it's been I think you're right in that it's been a season of, as it has been for the whole team, just trial and error. And it was tough with Julius in there. You've got two primary ball handlers, and then you've got Ant, who he's just has the ball in his hands a lot naturally because he's their 1A option. So
right.
But you're right. I think it's just his composure, I think, really can outweigh anything maybe that, because you're right, Chris, and that, like, Dante compared to Mike, if you're going to have someone just space, right, you'd rather have it be Dante. But then Mike's just control over the game. This game management, I think, is why Finch has really leaned so hard on him.
Chris, anything to add on Mike?
Yeah, I mean, he played him 17 minutes last night, so it's not like he was burning the wick on both ends on Mike Conley. And I think it's important to pull the trigger at the right time with him. What's really bothered me in the past is not so much when he's out there with Anthony Edwards, because I understand, like, he's just kind of a floor spacer. But what bothers me is when he's out there with a lineup without Randle or without Anthony Edwards, and he's not leading the offense. Like, if Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley are on the floor and Edwards and Randle aren't, I want Mike Conley running pick and roll. Like, I don't want him at that point being a spacer, because you need to have that intelligence, that gamesmanship. Like, that's where we're going to lean on you to give us that value. How can we extend this lead or hold this lead without our two, main offensive weapons out? That's why you want that savvy vet. So we're going to need it, and it's going to show its face. The playoffs are long, and having a veteran's never a bad idea, but having Nickeil Alexander step up for 20 points is a huge win for our guard rotation, because it's been looking pretty shallow there for a while, especially with Anthony Edwards not really being the MVP type player that we need. Like, it's crazy to me that we're playing so well in the playoffs, and Anthony Edwards these last couple games hasn't been very good at all. So It really shows that it's been a team effort. And of course, the Golden State, are kind of beat up.
Right. And Charlie, I wanted to ask you this, because we talked to you earlier in the season when things were still trying to find their cohesiveness a little bit. And I want to talk about Julius Randle a little bit, who may have had the best playoff game he has ever had in his whole career last night. Efficient. He had 24 points, 11 assists, and 7 rebounds. So since the beginning of the year, what's the biggest change that you've seen out of Julius Randle and just his fit with this team and just how effective he is on the court?
Yeah, it's his tempo. Obviously, defensively early in the season, the amount of times he would get back cut and he didn't really look bought in was alarming. But offensively, Finch should always compliment his pairing with Anthony Edwards. And while they looked good together, I think I mentioned this last time I was on, it didn't always translate to this team-wide success offensively. So it's really just the pace. And then he's always been able to pass the ball really well. And last night, he accounted for 54 points. 30 were off of his 11 assists. So anytime you can pass for more points than you had while scoring 20 points, that's a good rate. And he's he's been playing like this since March 2nd, guys. And I don't, if you were to go back and ask a fan in November if they'd expect Julius Randle to be arguably the most important part of a Timberwolves team that's 3 wins away from the Western Conference Finals, they wouldn't believe you. And
Right.
you couldn't blame them, right? It was grim to start the season, just effort-wise, right? And he's completely flipped a switch. Since he was playing well before the injury, but since the injury, he's been invaluable to the Timberwolves, both sides of the ball too. He defended LeBron incredibly well. Just he's playing hard, and he looks completely bought into everything the Wolves are doing, and it's why the Wolves are where they are right now, I think.
Yeah, no, he's been awesome. And he talked about in the post-game presser, he talked about how Finch has actually got on him in film sessions and on the court as well. We saw Randle go out early, even though they were up, 13-0? Finch, or 13-5, I guess. Finch wasn't happy with him not getting back, and they got into a little spat. But he talked about how he needs someone to get on him and someone to really push him forward. And I think that Chris Finch is the perfect fit for that.
Yeah. Anthony Edwards needs that too. And I think that's why he's, I kind of feel bad for head coaches in a way. Sometimes it's like they don't have a line in the box score every night. That's like Finch got an A+ for substitutions, a C for game management, right?
Right.
So fans can only judge what they're seeing on the court. And I understand it can be frustrating when the guy only plays 8 players and Jalen Clark or whomever is on the bench and looks ready. I get that that's frustrating, but It's like at the end of the day, Anthony Edwards likes playing for him. He listens to Finch. Like even after the last game, Chris Finch called him out. That took a lot of guts to call out your star player after a game in the playoffs like he did in game 1. And it's like Ant responds well to that type of coaching. Julius the same way. And that trickles down to the whole team. When your 2 players can be coached hard, the rest of the team is coached hard.
Right. And I tweeted about this. Every interview, even wins or losses, every time I've heard Julius Randle speak in post-game pressers, he's always a pro's pro. He's never too high, never too low. Like he seems like a great person. He seems like a down-to-earth person who is just really good at basketball. Chris, let's talk. I know you love talking about Julius Randle. What have you seen out of Randle these playoffs so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's really changed is I think he understands, just like most vets do, that when it's playoff time, I'm going to have to step up defensively quite a bit more. I think a lot of the middle of the season doldrums of Julius Randle were just like, it's an 82-game season, man. Like I'm a big grown man. You're asking me to basically play point forward as a vet power forward. Like that's just a lot of miles on the wheels for a big man. You don't see many big men pounding the ball that many times, running the offense that many times, attacking the paint that many times, kicking the ball out, driving and kicking that many times at that body weight. That's just a lot of gas tank that you got to burn. So defensively, he was understandably sloppy, and Anthony Edwards was bad at moments. I mean, our whole team had some ups and downs. So I think come playoff time, he understands he's got to lock in. And the physicality gets a little bigger, which he's all for.
Right.
And we've had some nice matchups. I mean, when we match up with their best guys are, kind of slower, big physical dudes, that's perfect for Randle. So that was great in the Lakers series. And hopefully it's going to be great. He gets good matchups moving forward.
Right. And what an opportunity for Julius Randle to change the narrative about him, because his narrative has always been, yeah, this guy can put up 25 in the regular season per game. He could score, whatever. But what an opportunity to actually be a team player and contribute in the playoffs in this kind of way. So where I want to go with this is Jaden McDaniels in the postgame presser was talking about how, first of all, that the team plays better on the road and that they kind of see themselves as it's Minnesota against the world, almost like the bad boy Pistons kind of had. So do you think that there's an actual feeling where the Wolves kind of view themselves as underdogs, or like, oh, we're not supposed to be here, Charlie? Or do you think that's kind of overblown? Or do you think that's a real feeling around the organization and the players.
Yeah, I mean, there was that video of Ant in the team hotel after the Lakers won, and he said he saw the panelists, the 10 ESPN panelists, all picking the Lakers. He said Paul Pierce, whatever. I didn't hear what Paul Pierce said. I guess he picked the Lakers to win the series. That tuned him up even more.
Everyone did. Everyone picked the Lakers.
So
no, I think that was when Paul Pierce was talking with Kevin Garnett and said he didn't think that Anthony Edwards had the type of like moxie or like charisma to go at LeBron James the same way as he went at Durant. He's like, I don't think he's that, like, that's the king. Anthony Edwards isn't going to go at him. And Kevin Garnett's is like, nah, Anthony Edwards is a different beast. Yeah. But Paul Pierce wasn't believing it. So yeah, it was good for Anthony Edwards to stomp that out.
Yeah. The Wolves, they've always, just this whole season, they've been best when their backs are against the wall. And it doesn't matter. Like that win in OKC. I mean, I still don't know how they pulled that off.
No, that was weird.
Shannon Jr. was playing, and they pulled that off against, the number 1 seed, and that double overtime win in Denver. It's a staple of this team, and it's a staple that all playoff teams have. And now that's obviously there was rightful concern coming into this series that, like, hey, they were 10.5 point favorites to win last night. And I tweeted that out, and a lot of people weren't happy at me because I tweeted it out. It wasn't even my, spread, but it's understandable. They had the worst home favorite record of the teams that were favored at home at least 40 times this season. And it's like, for whatever reason, they don't bring that same level of intensity. And it's like heading into the playoffs, you could, as a fan, you could be like, well, that's great because there's no bad teams in the playoffs. Well, the Wolves are kind of playing a bad team right now with no Steph Curry. So again, going back to the win last night, it was just super important that, like I said, not that they won, because if they won by like 2 points, I mean, yeah, it's a win, but like they stomped them, and they proved that they are the better team without Steph Curry. And it was important for a team that really didn't do that, prove that they were the better team against teams that were injured in the regular season.
Right. And what I loved about it, the Warriors had a little bit of a run. They got it within 7. And then the Wolves just came out and it was 17 going into the fourth quarter. And then other than that one time where they got to 7, the entire game, the Warriors didn't lead the entire game. And it was just that one time. But when they stomped on their throats, they just didn't let them eat. I don't think they got within 15 after that at any point of the game, which was great to see. But yeah, no, it was definitely a stop on their throat. Let's make a statement mentality last night.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, you mentioned that kind of me against the world type thing. And yeah, that's how the Wolves have always played. And I think for a young team, or at least a team that has kind of younger stars, it's easy and like more convenient to be like, oh no, it's us versus the world. We're the underdog. Like we're fighting back. And playing the Lakers and Golden State, you are that. Like, I mean, just media wise, Twitterverse wise, like they've got the larger fan base, and we're, the small market that nobody knows about globally or nationally. Like we kind of think that we're a big deal, but I bet you that, you talk to most people in Golden State or Los Angeles, and they're not going to know, many people on the roster past, our 3 All-Stars. So that me against our world is, I think, the way that's best for the Timberwolves. And I think we're going to be able to have that going forward, because even whoever comes out of the next series, if it's OKC, it's going to be another thing where we got to try to take out, the crowned MVP type thing. So
right.
I think we can keep pushing this narrative. And I think it is by far the best way for us, because when we're favored to win, or when, the media starts telling us how great we are or how we're the team to beat, that's usually when we fall apart, because, we just don't have that in us yet to take that praise and then to compete at that high level.
Right.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, we got to keep going with it. But if you really look at the Western Conference, other than the Warriors, they're all small market teams that are left. Like, you got Denver, you got Oklahoma City, you got us, and then you got the Warriors, which honestly, I know San Francisco, but before Curry and Draymond and Thompson, they weren't a big deal either. So, and then you look at the Eastern Conference. I mean, you got the Pacers, that's small market. They're on fire right now. You got the Cavaliers, that's a small market team. So it's almost like a renaissance of small market teams
sure.
right now, which is
Yeah.
kind of refreshing. I mean, both LA teams went out in the first round. That was awesome to see. So
yeah, and I think it's kind of a, just a thing to be said. Like all those small market teams, they built their teams the correct way, right?
Right.
They don't have the ability to go sign a player to a ton of money, and players like Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves, right? Like nobody wants to play here. It's cold. It's super cold in the winter. Nobody wants to play here, but they
Right.
want to play with Anthony Edwards. So
Right.
when you get a guy like SGA, you can blossom a team around them. It's super important for those small market teams.
Right. And just the fact that now I know Paul George didn't take a free fall right when they got SGA when he went to LA, but just the fact that they got SGA and all those pieces for Paul George and look at where Paul George is now is just crazy to me. But yeah, man, it's a fun time to be a Timberwolves fan. Let's talk a little bit about the Warriors, because I thought that it was interesting. Chris Finch gets a lot of crap, I guess, for not going to his bench, playing his 8-man rotation. It's the complete opposite with Steve Kerr, because they threw out Kevin Knox last night.
Yep.
I haven't seen Kevin Knox in like 3 years. They were throwing Brandon Key comes in for just defensive purposes sometimes. So do you think we'll continue to see this in this series, or last night was that just Steve Kerr trying to figure out what he's got without Steph Curry?
Yeah, this is kind of like you mentioned. I mean, this is kind of how Steve Kerr likes to coach. It's how he's coached all season, I guess. And he's trying to manage playing Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green specifically all these minutes, and they've been playing back to back for the last, or not back to back, but every other day for the last 2-ish weeks. They've had no breaks, and it's been tough. And I do think you're right in that they're kind of experimenting with other things. I think Jonathan Kuminga is going to play more. He had some really good.
Oh,
minutes.
yeah, he has to. He has to.
Right. And then I think I think it was Anthony Slater, the Athletic, tweeted it out, and then Trace Jackson Davis, he'll probably play some more too. And I remember he gave the Wolves some fits in the regular season at Target Center. So yeah, they'll probably Kerr might tighten it up a little bit, but I mean, when you're without Steph Curry, and if Jimmy keeps playing the way he has and he's not playing with that type of motive, like you just have to try to keep guys fresh. And like, right now, I think their goal, like I mentioned, is just to extend this series as long as they can so Steph Curry can come back. Now, does that mean playing 14 guys and it's Kevin Knox at the end of the bench? Is that the solution? Probably not, maybe, but it's definitely desperation mode for them.
Yeah. And like you were mentioning, that felt like a feel out game. That felt like, I don't know which is interesting because you've had these guys all season long, but I don't know what I have in these guys. Let's throw them out there and see what happens, particularly when the Wolves get out to such a good start. Like they're up 13-0. It's like, okay, it's not that the Warriors gave up by any means, but it's kind of like, this is not a one game, like this isn't like a play-in game where
it felt like a regular season game. And I was rewatching it this morning, just and I don't mean to bash the players, but just who was on the court.
Right.
And like, it didn't feel like a playoff game. It didn't have that star power. It didn't have just these, they were not playing well, and they didn't have particularly good players on the court. It didn't feel like a second round playoff game. It'd be different if it was like a first round, Miami versus Cleveland situation, but it was the second round,
Right. Yeah. I mean, Steph, when you've got the person who's arguably changed basketball more than any other person out, that's going to happen, right? And you don't have the Warriors of old where, okay, Curry's not there. At least you got Thompson. You got the rest of the squad there. So yeah, you don't have the Splash Brothers for sure. Chris, anything to add on that?
Yeah, they're just not good. Like, the Warriors are just not that good. And even if they had Curry right now, it should be Wolves in 5 like talk anyways. Like, we're so much better than this team. He's trying to pull as many guys out just because like he just wants to look like he's not quitting. Like he knows this series is over too, like this isn't a surprise to Kerr. Like maybe we're gonna pull it out with this fourth, these non-tendered like free agents. Like, no, you're not. Like, these guys are bad and you're gonna lose. It's just what it is. Like, I feel bad almost for Golden State fans that they're in the second round.
I don't.
And this and this is their roster.
I
Like,
don't at all.
this sucks for them to have like the bones and the ghost of what used to be a great story about Jimmy Butler being this playoff magician, who they always like to forget the two all-stars that have always played with him on those teams that he pulled to the championship by himself, with multiple other all-stars on the court. So like, he's just not that guy. Draymond Green is a dust pile of what he used to be.
He's been torching the Wolves though, man. He's been making the threes.
He's working
tough.
hard.
Like when the crowd was chanting, Draymond sucks in last game, and it's just like, if I was him, I'd be like, I'm really not sucking too bad against you guys right now, but
right. It's just tough.
Yeah.
It's just a tough roster, and I think we need to take advantage of this. We need to get our rest, and we need to get some of our guys cooking that haven't been. I'm not worried about Anthony Edwards. He can get hot in one shot. Like, if he was NBA Jam, he would make one, and he'd be like, he's on fire. Like, you don't need the setup for a dude like him. So it's the other guys I want to see the ball go in a little bit more for.
Me, as a long-suffering, and I know you are too, as a long-suffering Wolves fan, doesn't think it's over yet, just because of years that I've watched the Wolves basketball where they underperform. The example that I always bring up was I think the 22-23 year, and this is why I bring up Kevin Knox as well. They needed a win at home against Portland, and I think they were like 20-point favorites, and they were completely healthy, 100% healthy, and they lose to Shaedon Sharpe and Kevin Knox. So and I've also been to a game where they were up 15 against Charlotte at home and lost. So, I mean, a long-suffering Wolves fan, I still don't think it's over necessarily, because I think maybe Buddy Hield can get hot. But last night was definitely encouraging. But the Wolves definitely need to not overlook this team and take care of business. Not look
shut
to
the door.
Yeah, shut the door. Now look to the next round. Last thing I want to talk about here, once again, is the Warriors a little bit. Draymond Green, me and Charlie were at the game, so I didn't really see everything that he said. But some of his comments after the game where, they're just profiling me as an angry black man. Honestly, and I know there is a problem with that in our culture, where probably African Americans they're probably on a shorter leash than probably like white players and stuff like that. But I think Draymond's actions speak for themselves. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I thought so. Like, coming into the series, I know he was trying to place more of an emphasis on just keeping his cool, because I'm pretty sure he was 3 technicals away from a suspension in the playoffs entering.
It's close.
And then I thought he did that in game 1. I thought he was pretty even keel, and like, when he's playing like that and he can still be that enforcer, and that, I mean, obviously when he scores 16 points and he's hitting threes, he's a different player. But when he can be that player and not be a threat to have to get a tech and possibly get tossed, it's when he's at his best. Team. Right. Yeah. It's when he's at his best, and when the Warriors are probably at their best, especially without Steph. But last night, the whole Naz Reid thing, I was just confused as to why he was so upset with that, because I'm like you hit him in it was an elbow to the face, and like, if we go to the flagrant rules, right? If it was a layup, follow through, and then you hit him on the head, like, that is a flagrant foul, penalty 1. The reason they called it a tech is because it was after the play. So I thought, when Tony Brothers said it was a technical foul, I'm like, that makes sense. Yep. Like, I thought maybe a flagrant, but like, technical, that's certainly seems plausible. And then he just flips out, I believe, at Tyler Ford, and, starts cussing at him. And he probably should have gotten tossed twice, like, for what he was saying. I can't believe that they didn't.
Yeah.
And then he had to go sit on the bench to kind of cool off. So I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't too sure why he got so upset at that call in particular.
Yeah.
So
that one was weird. It's weird because he thinks like people are out to get him, but the only reason but he has the longest leash in the entire NBA. Like, particularly in the playoffs, like, Ant does that, he's gone immediately.
Yeah, 100%.
He's got, anybody else does that, he's gone so quick. I mean, it's crazy, and I almost kind of feel bad for him a little bit, just because, I don't know, it seems like he doesn't have control of his, but it's almost like he hits people and he doesn't know what he's doing. Like he has
He was
no
flailing a lot last night. So like I could maybe get it if he like was trying to get the call and he just was flailing and like, but like it doesn't matter. You made contact with his head and neck area. It's gonna be
Right.
a upgraded foul regardless.
He
It doesn't
knows
really
what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. I mean, there's some sort of stat I remember last year or whenever they were making another run that showed that when Steph Curry is out of the lineup for whatever reason, Draymond Green or like something like 70% of the times Draymond Green's been kicked out of the game, Steph Curry was out of that game too.
Wow.
So like a lot of it is he doesn't want to be in this. He knows what's happening in this game. Like he's worthless without Steph Curry to take all the pressure off of to let him do his thing. Like he knows that he has to do something out of the ordinary, get the emotions changed, get us playing, off of our, attention span or something. He has to do something to get the emotions changed because they just don't have enough talent. So like he was trying to poke the bear, he was trying to stir it up or make the game ugly and dirty and like chippy because that was the only to slow it down and make it a slugfest is their only chance. Like
Right.
Golden State isn't going to score over 100 points versus us. They just can't. They don't have enough talent. So like they need to have an ugly, dirty game where the refs are letting us hold. And I mean, that's to their benefit. So he's just trying to ugly it up, which is one of his only abilities he has as a basketball player now is to dirty it up and just kind of get in somebody's head.
Yeah, he's very willing to play the villain, I think.
Oh yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is
he knows
very
what he's
interesting.
doing.
Yeah, which is very interesting when he makes comments after the game like, "Oh, I'm being targeted," stuff like that.
Again,
It's an
He
interesting
does that because it's calculated. He knows what he's doing. Like he
Right.
knows that he knows if he brings attention to that, that's gonna give him some more leeway with the referees. Or I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's been media trained. He knows how
Right.
to play the media.
Yeah,
Right.
and the only
So
thing
what-
too with the
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go
just
ahead.
one more thing with the
Yeah.
what he said after the game. It's like I have a feeling it was probably had something to do with whatever that fan or those fans said to him.
Yeah,
as it
which
got
is
tossed.
inexcusable. Like
It was
screw
horrible.
Screw
It's
those people. Whoever
yeah,
said
and
that.
there's no place for that in our society or in anywhere. But just it's a shame because for whatever reason, fans think that they can get away with things that are way across the line. And I was saying this before the show. It's like the title, play game. It's a game. These grown men are
Right.
playing a game. It is not that deep at the end of the day. Nothing should warrant anything like that. And it's just it's a stain on the sports community
Right.
because I've heard a lot, not racism, but just fans going way across the line, and it's
Right.
unacceptable. And it's like, just enjoy the game. You paid a ton of money to be there. There's no
Right.
sense in it. Like you can say Draymond sucks, whatever, but leave it at that. It's like
Right.
these players have heard it all. They don't really care, especially if you're in the 200 level. They can't hear you,
Right. Yeah. And honestly, if that fan did say what we think they said, ban them for life. Like don't let them back or at least a while. Don't let them back in the arena. Like that's
Yeah.
that like the fact that we're still dealing with this in 2025 is crazy to me. Now I know that fans get caught up in the moment, but still no excuse for that. So Charlie, I just want to ask you what do you think are the keys for the Wolves going forward in this series to just close it out in 5 or 6 or whatever? How can they shut the door on this series?
Yeah, well, like you guys mentioned, it's just keeping that underdog mindset. I think not that they would get confident, but I really think that third quarter run was important and something that Chris Finch needs to drill on in the film session to be like, you guys shot 2 for 6 to open the first 5 minutes. You got outscored 16-6, and you turned it over 5 times. They proved in that moment that, like throughout the night, the Warriors are not a good team, but they proved in that 5-minute stretch that they can beat Minnesota if the Wolves let them.
Yes.
So I think going into Golden State, going into Game 3, and however long the series goes, you have to remember that, and just keeping that mindset of like, because they covered the spread in Game 2. Not a lot of fans thought they would, and they're going to be heavy favorites for as long as Steph is out, and probably if he does return, and the series is still going on once he does return. So just keeping that mindset, I think, is of the utmost importance, and obviously remembering that third quarter.
Absolutely. So, Charlie, remind them where they can find you on social media and online.
Charlie Walton MN on Instagram and Twitter, and then zonecoverage.com.
Absolutely. And I will link everything in the description so you can check on that as well. Charlie, thank you so much for joining us. We loved having you, and you are welcome anytime. And keep up the good work. I love everything you do on Twitter and Instagram and your writing as well. It's awesome stuff.
I appreciate that, guys. It means a lot. It's a lot of fun to be with you here today.
Awesome. Chris, thanks so much for being here as always.
Yeah, thanks, man. Wolves in 5. Yeah, I just want to say, Charlie, the first time I met you, and I was actually following you even before he was talking about you maybe being on here, and you do good work. So like, be proud of the work you do. It's legit good. Like I've been consuming Timberwolves writing, for a very long time, and a lot of it's not that good. Yours is. So be proud of
I
that.
appreciate that. That means a lot more than you know. I really appreciate it.
Actually, I just thought of this. I should have had this number one, but is it Wolves in 5, Charlie? Is that, would you say?
Yeah, Wolves in 5 until it isn't, man. I mean, after last night, you got to say it. You can't not be in the state of Minnesota and say anything else. So
I totally agree. Well, thank you both for joining me today. This is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple, and we'll keep it tuned to Running with the Timberwolves, because we are going to be covering it all playoff run long. And as always, go Wolves.